I am here this evening. If you're listening and you're wondering why I'm here this evening, well, I know I'm on the air usually in the mornings from 10 to 1, but I do have the honor today to host our show, which happens every last Wednesday of the month. It's called the Brent Health Matters Show. It is with Brent Health Council, Brent Health Matters, and collaborating with the Beat London. And this show essentially, we talk about health issues, all sorts of health issues. We have experts, people with lived-in experiences coming in and discussing about how to navigate these health issues and, of course, get support. Today on the topic, we are discussing maternity services, and I wanted to just bring on my special guests today on the show. I have with me Kate, I want to pronounce the name properly, Kate Rood, who is a development consultant midwife. Hello, Kate, can you hear me?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Good evening, good to have you on. I have Jahida, who's a community and outpatient matron, who's joining us as well. Hi, Jahida.
Hi, lovely to meet you.
Fantastic. And Heather is the co-chair of Maternity Voices Partnerships, better known as MVP, and she's going to be also talking extensively about maternity services and how MVP is helping in that regard. Hi, Heather, how are you?
Hi, Doug, I'm good, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Fantastic. And as always, we always bring in people who are benefiting from the service. And today we have Amanda Mapanda, who is currently a service user. She's also currently a mom. And Amanda, according to the profile, you recently had a baby, yeah? Is that correct?
Yes, I was going to say, I don't know if it's currently a mum or forever a mum.
well, you're right. Forever a mom, but currently a new mom, I would say. So congratulations, by the way. And I'm happy you're here with us. Can we hear you? Okay, Amanda, I think we lost you, but should join us a minute. Okay, so let's get into it. Kate, I want to start with you, and I'm going to just bring everybody else in. So can we just talk about what maternity services is all about? Kate, can you just sort of like give me a quick introduction to what maternity services is all about for people who don't know?
Yes, of course I can. So I'm a consultant midwife at London North West, which is based at Northwick Park Hospital. We do have the majority of our services, inpatient services, all of our inpatient services at Northwick Park Hospital, but we do have some outpatient services at Central Middlesex as well. And Jahida will talk a little bit about our community service as well that we offer over quite a few different areas. So at Northwick Park Hospital, we are a 24-hour service. We birth nearly 4,000 babies a year and provide community care for a further 3,000 that may birth in other hospitals but then come back into our area to have the services of our community midwives. We have a delivery suite and a birth centre. We have ante and postnatal services, and as I said, a community service. Our birth centre is currently being refurbished, and it's a really exciting new opening, going to be in June, July. We're hoping for a special opening of our birth centre. We're really excited because we're going to have 4 birthing pools. We're going to have a home-from-home environment for our mums, and we're hoping that it's going to be a service led by the midwives. And we are working closely with the MVP and Maternity Voices Partnership to have their input into it. So we're designing it bespoke for the needs of the families in our area.
Okay, I think this is a good way to bring Jahida in real quick because I mean, you actually mentioned her, but she also, Jahida, you are the community and outpatient matron, so which means you kind of also deal with the patients on the regular, right? So walk me through, walk me through that, what your day-to-day is like, working as the outpatient matron. Tell us about the antenatal and postnatal community service pathway that is available for.
So like Kate really well addressed, we have a large part of our services out in the community, and we call this an integrated pathway. Okay. A lot of our services are pushed back out into the community. So we function from children's centres, mainly based in the boroughs of Brent and Harrow. Now, if we're targeting Brent, one of the largest children's centres that we work from is the Wembley Health Centre, based in Chaplin Road in the borough of Brent. And that's a family wellbeing centre which is composed of different elements of the healthcare industry, which includes midwives, health visitors, GPs, children's centre workers. So we have an integrated system in the community. However, we also have, so the trust itself, London North West University Healthcare, is composed of both Northwick Park and Central Middlesex Hospital, which is based at Park Royal. And between both those trusts, we roll out antenatal and postnatal care. And that care is provided for by the community midwives. So we have a really robust integrated service within the community, hoping to serve the Brent population as well as the Harrow population. Right.
Heather, you are the co-chair of MVP, Maternity Voices Partnership.
Right.
Do you mind just talking us through first off how you got inspired to starting this up, and or rather what led to this? What inspired you to it, and talk us about your services a bit. What's the core focus of what you offer?
Okay, so the Maternity Voices Partnership is actually a national offering. So most hospitals will have one across the country, but the one at Northwick Park, I joined just after I had my baby a few years ago at Northwick Park, just to sort of feed back the wonderful care that I'd had during my pregnancy, and I was on the birth centre pathway, but it's a very common story. I ended up with complications at the end of my pregnancy and was under sort of frequent monitoring. So I had a lot of care and it was all excellent. So that's how I got involved with the Maternity Voices Partnership.
Right.
And what the partnership is it's made up of predominantly women and birthing people who've had their babies at Northwick Park, working with the trust itself, so working with the hospital, so midwives, doctors, health visitors from Brent and Harrow. We all work together to work with the hospital to make the service as good as it can be, and so that when the hospital are designing pathways, the voice of the user and the community that it serves is heard and integrated into those designs of the procedures and policies and pathways.
Right. It's almost like you're giving back really from you're giving back to the community with you got good care and you're kind of returning, giving that back, and with your experience as well, right?
Yep, absolutely. And so one part of the work we do is actually trying to hear more stories from more people who've used the service.
So I want to just, and this is interesting. I'll go back to you in a minute, but in terms of what you have encountered over the period, I mean, working with other, patients coming in and other midwives who were there supporting and whatnot, what would you say is the biggest struggle that currently exists in offering this service, I would say?
The biggest struggle for the MVP is probably just letting people know that we're there and what services are available, not just from the MVP, but from the hospital as well.
Right.
So a really good example of that is we run a weekly Ask the Midwife session every Friday morning on Teams. That's postnatal questions, antenatal questions. No question is too big or too small. It's not a clinical Q&A. But it's maybe you've had your appointment and you've walked away in 10 minutes after you've got home and you've gone, oh, I forgot to ask that. It's right. That sort of space, just so you can just come in, you can ask a quick question, get an answer straight away without having to wait several weeks until your next appointment.
Yeah. Jahida, please, I hope you don't mind me pulling you in real quick, because so you talked, you briefly talked about the postnatal and antenatal service pathway. I wonder for parents mothers who are about to have babies who insist of wanting to have their children at home, because I mean, in some families they consider that as sort of like a tradition or something that they prefer. What's that like? And is there such opportunities for mothers to be able to have their babies at home, and will they get the care that they, that they would usually get if they went into maternity services?
That's a really valid point. So thank you for raising that. Absolutely. At London North West, we are delivering home birth services. So what we do, we take each case by case, and we tailor our home birth service to meet the needs of the specific patient. So we are one of very few trusts within our sector that are accepting or accommodating home birth requests. So if there is anybody listening to this who is contemplating a home birth, then please get in touch with your midwife, start questioning and taking it from there. We have recently allocated or appointed rather, a home birth lead. So we have a vision in place that works hand in hand with the brand new birth centre that I'm sure Kate will touch upon. So we have a vision to roll out a team that will be dedicated to the home birth service. So like I said, anybody who is listening and who is wanting a home birth, then please get in contact with your midwife, who will just direct you in the right way, and we can get the ball rolling.
Right, great. I wonder if Amanda's here. I think she kind of we lost her due to the network. Because I mean, she's currently a service user, and it would be nice to hear her experience. Let's see what she has to say about that. But it's fine, Kate. Let me direct this question to you now. Obviously, to a large extent, and I need to first of all give credit to each and every one of you, because I think you guys are doing the Lord's work, God's work. But let's talk about, mothers who've probably had complications in the past, in previous pregnancies, right? Can you just walk me through how you how you support such women, with previous cesarean complications?
Yes, so basically we offer quite a few different services depending on the need of the person that requires the service. The first service is a listening service. So primarily it's for anybody that's had a baby or having a baby that would like to talk about either what's happened or what's about to happen. So they can make an appointment or be referred to us through their midwife. And I can also give a phone number today, and they can self-refer to the service, and we will contact them and make an appointment to either see them over the phone or in person, one-to-one. So we call we do antenatal listening service, and then we do a postnatal birth reflection service. So we have a sort of generic email for that, and we will arrange an appointment ad hoc with a woman and or her family at a time that suits her.
Right.
And the other service that I wanted to mention, which is quite pertinent for a lot of ladies in our community, is those that may have had a cesarean section. So if they've had a cesarean section and they're now pregnant again and they're considering their options, we have just set up a new service where we can listen to their voices also. It starts with a class, which is a generic class, run in a group setting for 1 hour in the middle point of their pregnancy at around 20-ish weeks. There's no sort of set, or you must be a certain amount of weeks to come. And then after that, they will have an option for further discussion if they would like it, so they could have a one-to-one. So there's a clinic after that, they can arrange an appointment. The normal routine following is that they would see the consultant at around 16 weeks, and then again at 36 weeks, to make a final choice about how they want to go, whether they want to try and have a natural birth this time, vaginal birth, or whether they would like to have another cesarean section. And whichever pathway they choose, we give them all that information to help them make an informed choice.
Okay. We have Amanda back. Hi, Amanda. Can you hear me?
Hi, Doug. Yep, I can. Sorry about that. Virgin is not being my friend today.
No. Trust me. Like I said, we're all beholden to technology and the Wi-Fi. sometimes it feels like we're cut off from the world when network just fails on us. So it's good to have you back. So you are currently a service user, right? And I thought maybe it would be nice if you can just probably share your experience, your maternity journey with us, if that's okay, like, you know, and so the people who are listening can also see how they can benefit from that as well.
Sure. So I think for me, this was, my first pregnancy, and also a lot of firsts because I hadn't really used the NHS much. I haven't been much of a sick one, thank God. So really getting pregnant was really my first interface with the NHS, and really, I guess I was coming from a place of not really knowing what was available to me. So from the point of, I guess, registering online, a lot of what I liked initially was actually that a lot of the comms come to you. So you've kind of let the system know that you're pregnant, and then you're invited to your midwife appointments, which is a community center, like a family wellbeing center. And that's where I would meet up with my midwife periodically. And that I enjoyed again. Like I said, keeping up with the appointments was kind of made very easy because it was text, SMSs. And for me, there was a bit of juggling with work in the city. And there were times when I would get an appointment time that just didn't work for me. And it seems, I kind of thought, oh, that's it. And I would text, and then it's like, no problem, let's rearrange. So I found that to be quite a fluid service, and everything was kind of straightforward. My pregnancy was straightforward, until it became not so straightforward. And at that point, I was referred to the daily assessment unit, which is a much more, I was kind of going 3 times a week because I had certain, medical conditions that needed to be monitored a lot more closely in the last, I would say, third of my pregnancy. So, again, that was a service I didn't even know was there. That level of close monitoring, that level of, I guess, using the services and being at the hospital and getting emergency ultrasounds, there was just a lot available to me that I wasn't aware of. The other thing I probably think is worth mentioning is what Kate was just talking about now, the listening service, and how it interfaced with my experience was the community midwife I kind of was feeling quite anxious about my birth plan because it wasn't vanilla. I was not wanting to go down the vaginal birth route. I was quite clear that I wanted to do an elective C-section, not for any medical reasons, but other than my own choice. But I think, again, the perception I'd gotten was, you can't really talk to midwives, or this won't be really supported. So I really wasn't keen on talking about it. But actually what my midwife did was to refer me to Kate. And that's when I met Kate. And we had an appointment set up with her, which I was feeling, again, like I said, quite apprehensive about, because I kind of was like, I don't want to have someone try and convince me, not to go with my decision and do something I don't want to do. But the appointment with Kate was really refreshing. And I think she kind of called it informed consent. And it was exactly that. It was more a touch point of talking to somebody who has all the knowledge about, I guess, the things you're trying to make a decision about, and is trying to make sure that similarly that we had the knowledge. So my husband and I attended that appointment together. And, we chatted to Kate. She kind of found out like what was informing our decision, got to know us, gave us the information, and then gave us time to go away with the information. Scheduled a subsequent appointment, like she said, at a later stage to then say, what's your final decision? Let's schedule your C-section. And I really felt very supported in that, actually. And I really had thought I was ready for a fight, but it was anything but that. So yeah, I think I've mentioned the community center, the daily assessment unit, which not every woman will need, because if your pregnancy is straightforward, then in plain sailing, you only need to kind of be seen as and when you need to be seen. But I really like the fact that the daily assessment unit was there, because in the end, it turned out that my scheduled elective C-section had to be moved 3 weeks earlier because things had changed. So, I was kind of left to my own devices. Health-wise, my condition was changing and I wasn't aware. I felt fine. But because of the daily assessment unit, they were able to pick up actually things were not so okay. And decisions were able to be made sooner rather than later to kind of avoid emergency situations and kind of, maximize the health potential for me and my baby.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, it's a lovely story and very inspiring. Kate, I think you and everybody else who worked on you deserve a big applaud on that. Applause on that. Kate, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, so obviously the community that require or that would need the service, maternity services, is quite large and very multicultural. So from a communications point of view, you talked about the listening service and all. How do you interact with, you know, mothers to be who are not English speaking? I mean, what's in place to help communicate with them?
So we have a number of different ways of translation services. So the first one is a face-to-face, an interpreter, booking an interpreter. So somebody would come, if there's a complex discussion required, then you would have somebody face-to-face to join the person for the appointment. We also have telephone interpreter service, and it's very, very straightforward to use. You just, we have a service called Silent Sounds. And so if you are sort of caught short in an appointment and there isn't an interpreter or someone hasn't turned up, you can ring Silent Sounds, pick the language you require, and then you'll get somebody instantly that can interpret for you. And we have an iPad system as well, so you can have a face-to-face sort of over a tech system. So that covers basically people that are being admitted in any time of the day or night. And for example, going back to the class, I talked about the birth after cesarean class. It's being taught, the class, in a large auditorium. So if there is an interpreter coming with a person or a family, then they can sit sort of slightly in the corner, and I will be speaking slowly so they can have the whole thing interpreted whilst the course is, or for the presentation. So yeah. Okay,
interesting. Heather, let me pull you in if you don't mind. As the co-chair for MVP, obviously you mentioned earlier that your services link with the services in London Northwick, right? So can you talk to us about that linkage and how that benefits the mothers?
Yep, so we meet regularly. We have sort of some formal meetings for anyone who's interested in joining the MVP. So that's made up of those people I mentioned before, so predominantly women and their families who've had babies at Northwick Park, midwives, doctors, health visitors in the area. We have some doulas as well that, you know, help people have their babies in the area. And so that's our sort of formal process of working with the hospital, but sort of informally we're sort of chatting to them all the time. So there was that weekly Q&A that we mentioned on a Friday morning. So there's normally me and Kate are there, or Jahida sometimes. So there's meeting with people, and we can share ideas and things that way. We've been working with Kate, as she said, on like the birth centre that's being refurbished at the minute. So things like, what pictures do we want on the walls? What do people find inspiring? What colours? That sort of what does home from home mean if you're actually having a baby rather than from a clinical point of view? So that's kind of how we interact. Or if there's new patient literature being designed, then that will be co-produced, so that we will help the hospital to write that so that it's understandable for the person who will be reading it, the end user.
Yep. I want to just throw in a question around cultural differences, and Jahida, please, anybody can feel free to chime in on this. I come from a culture where more often than not, women don't want to announce that they're pregnant, that they don't want to make it very public, right? It's only just their doctors that know that they're pregnant, for whatever reasons. It could be that, I don't want to go too far, but it could be that, you know what, if I let the world know, I let people know that I'm pregnant, then, you know, something might happen. You know, there are all sorts of religious beliefs. But I guess my question here is, when such people are in the community, is there a way to be able to give them comfort and buy in their trust, or get their trust, so that they can obviously open up and benefit from the maternity services that exist? Is that an issue that either of you have encountered in the various communities that you've worked in?
Thank you for that question, Douglas. I think it's a very valid question, and I agree. London Northwest attracts such a large geographical population, composed of so many different cultures, so many different types of people with so many different types of needs, and whether that be from a cultural perspective, whether that be from a physical perspective, the list goes on. And I think as midwives, and if we strip all of our titles away, that's essentially what we are. As midwives, it is our job to be a voice for the women. We are there to empower the patients. So if it is a case of, and I'm going to use your example that you've actually raised, if it is a case of someone doesn't want to disclose their pregnancy or isn't ready to disclose that pregnancy, then we are educated to respect that. We are at a privilege to provide her informed choice. So we've got to respect any decision that she makes. It could be making simple alterations to the care that we're giving. So instead of inviting her into a open family wellbeing centre, we can invite her into a little bit more of a enclosed space where it's less public. So it's about taking into account people's needs, people's wishes, and respecting that. And that's part and parcel of being a midwife. And I'm sure Kate, from a professional perspective, and Heather and Amanda from a service user perspective, can also provide examples of when we have to do that. And we do that on a subconscious level, because that is what makes us midwives. We are a voice for the patient.
Yeah. Thank you for touching on that. Kate, Heather, do you guys want to say a few words on that? Okay.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to say that, just to really echo what Jahida said, but, our role, as she said, is to be with women and to support their journey. To be fair, we don't get many women that don't want to disclose their pregnancy. It's not that common, but we do get a lot of women that want privacy. We do get a lot of women that we need interpreters for. We do get quite a few women that need to see somebody more for more time and more length of time. So sometimes we get requests for just to have females in the room, for example. And we have to be honest and say, well, look, it depends on particularly in the labouring room, who will be in there. We have a mixture of different doctors of different ethnicities and genders, so we can't ever promise that when it comes to the labour ward, but majority of us want to respect and do as much as we can for the wishes of the women that we're looking after.
Right. And just a little bit on that, because I think your interaction with these mothers is also, there's a trust, that there's a bond that is built over time, right? Amanda talked about the daily checkups that she was going through. I just wanted to know, is it one consistent person that's going to be speaking with you daily, or is it different midwives that will communicate with you daily? And if someone wanted if someone got comfortable just speaking to one particular person, could that be an option, that person will be the person assigned to checking on them regularly? I don't know if that question makes sense, but it's more or less from a trust.
Are you talking about during the pregnancy and the journey? Yeah,
during the journey of the pregnancy, yes.
Jahida, do you want to talk about the teams and things? The community teams.
Hi, sorry, I'm having a little bit of disturbance in the audio. Could you just repeat that for me?
Yeah, so I guess what I was trying to ask was, so how Amanda was talking about the daily checkups that she got from the service, which was really great for her. Someone was checking up on her daily to assess her situation and just kind of walk her through it. And I'm just asking, that checkup, is it done by one person, or is it different people checking up on her? And for those, will I call it mothers or patients who have built a certain trust or a bond with a particular midwife and would prefer that person be the person checking up on them, whether that option is available, because there are, so, and I asked this question because we're all different, right? Some people are introverts who just don't know how to open up very freely with everyone, and they just might warm up to one particular person and they're comfortable with that person. Yeah. So I was wondering if that's available. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So part of the community it is made up of teams. So there are specific teams placed specifically in each part of the boroughs, Brent and Harrow. And the idea is we try to maintain some sort of continuity within the antenatal and the postnatal part of a pregnancy pathway. So, for example, like Amanda, when she did go to see her midwife at the Family Wellbeing Centre, she built up a good rapport. She felt that she could communicate quite easily with the midwives, and that's essentially the essence that we want to bring. Continuity, to some extent, helps restore that relationship, restore that communication. I think Amanda also touched base on the DAU, which is the Day Assessment Unit, which is part of Northwick Park. And again, she went in there, and as she was attending on a regular basis, it provided that, seeing the same staff again and again, it created that sense of security. And that's where you build up trust. And if you think about it, pregnancy is 10 months long. It's a long part of, it's a long part of our life, especially for one episode. So to build and maintain a relationship is an integral part of that bond and for that pregnancy too. And we do try and implement that from the offset, from a service user to a service provider perspective.
Yeah. Thanks for shedding more light on that. Heather, I want to pull you in again. You're the co-chair of MVP, and you mentioned that a lot of the people that work in MVP are people who have, given birth in Northwick and benefited from the services and are almost like giving back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me. How can someone be a part of this? Like, if someone wanted to join or wanted to be a part of, giving back to the community, how does that work? Is there a process in place? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got various ways. So we've got an Instagram page. You can follow us on there and see what we're up to, which is at Northwick Park MVP. Similarly, on Facebook, you can find us on there, or you could just if you want to sort of membership is very fluid. You can do as little or as much as you want to be. You could just want to join our mailing list to see when the meetings are and get the minutes of the meetings, so you can get a flavour for what we're working for. Or if you've got time and you want to, you can get involved with some of the projects, like I mentioned before, that we work with the hospital to develop. So that might be just reviewing a leaflet of information. And if you're interested in that area of care, you can say this is helpful, this isn't helpful, and we can feed that back. So yeah, the easiest way is you can find us on the hospital maternity page as well.
Right.
And also on that is the link to the Q&A, which is also an excellent way to get us, because we're there every week.
Amazing. I just got this text that just came in, and I want to read it out, and maybe you can just help me answer this question now. And this is really to all of you now. So, and the person said, I'm listening to the show, I'm interested in discuss. Says, my wife is 47, and she is pregnant, late pregnancy. She says, my wife is pregnant, it's a late pregnancy, but she wants to do a cesarean, and the doctor says it is not safe. So this is interesting, because it was earlier when we were talking earlier. I think it was Amanda and Kate, you also echoed on that, where if a mother insists that they want to give birth in a certain type of way, that they're never talked out of it. And I understand respecting the wishes of a mom, but how do you address that when there are medical complications involved? Like, wouldn't that require a certain level of, I would say, persuasion to save the mother and the child?
So I won't comment on any particular case, but I can address that request. And if that person is having a baby with us, I'll give you the phone number now that they can.
Okay, please do.
Shall I read you the phone number?
Yes, please do.
Through that personal. Yeah. So the number for our triage, and I've got it is 0208
0208
869 2890. and then they can do a referral to us.
Could you repeat that again, please? Yeah, 0208
0208
869
2890. And that's our telephone triage. It's 24-hour service. We do have it manned 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for well, 24 hours a day, but somebody specifically mans it during the day more than the night.
Right.
They'll be working clinically as well at night.
Okay.
But this brings me back to making an informed choice. So it isn't any other clinician's choice as to whether a person has a cesarean or attempts to have a natural vaginal birth. It's her choice, and that can be supported if we give her all of the information about the risks involved, because there's plenty of risks. There's risks with it, you know, with any form of birth, whether it be cesarean or vaginal birth, but it's knowing what they are and thinking, right, well, I know that now, these are the risks for me, and I want to make this choice. So yeah, I would encourage that person to see, if they aren't birthing here, or either way, see their midwife who can refer them in, because most hospitals do have a listening service designed around understanding people's viewpoints and taking things further. So there's always a consultant midwife in all of the different, in London North West, all of our trusts of consultant midwives, and we offer that service. So and we can meet one-to-one to support choice.
Right. Okay. Thanks. And just a follow-up question. So can a woman refer herself to maternity? Like, how does that work? Like, is it the GP that refers, or can a woman actually refer herself if she prefers? Like, for example, yeah. Is that possible?
Yes, she can self-refer.
Okay.
She can see her GP. Self-referring is almost easier though, because it's just literally going onto Google and just putting in London Northwest or Norfolk Park Maternity Services, and it'll just pop up, and it's just a pop-up referral link. It's very, very easy. You can probably say tell about that, Heather?
Yeah, absolutely. The self-referral is probably the easiest and quickest way to access the service. So as Kate says, it's just it's very quick to Google. It takes you straight to the referral page. It asks just for very basic information that gets you in the system and gets you your first appointment. And it's great if you can do that early in your pregnancy. So then you're in the system and you're seen quite early, and you can sort of plan your pregnancy. But obviously, if you're saying earlier, if you do it a bit later in your pregnancy, that's not a problem either. There's the midwives will still see you and still look after you.
And is it advised? So, you know, I'm walking down this rabbit hole, like, because I mean, I'm thinking of eventualities and just what, you know, the average listener could potentially be experiencing, right? So I want to just see if I can ask as many questions. So you talked about self-referral now, and they can easily do that by going to the website. But so let's assume I've referred myself as a mother. I've referred myself, and I'm now with a maternity, receiving, you know, support from the service. But then, you know, I travel, or maybe I'm you know, out of the country, and I'm not in close proximity to get the support that I need. How does that work? Will I, if I'm in another country or somewhere else, do I need to connect my maternity service or ward with wherever I am? How does that support trickle down to wherever else they are? And I know you can't guarantee for the support that's going to be given in another country or anywhere else, but at least from an information point of view and interaction point of view, I'm sure.
So if somebody leaves the area, let's just say they move to
for
a
instance,
county, for example,
then
or a
different state, yes.
They would transfer their care if they were moving. If they're just on holiday somewhere else, they would hopefully they would take their records with them. Okay. And then they could be seen if needed in an emergency.
Right.
If they were going for a longer period, then they could transfer their care. It brings me on to digital services, really, because we are at the moment, women carry around their records with them. Yeah. And in August, we are going digital. So we will be using a system called Cerner, and we'll be going live with that. And so all of our records will be digital, and women will be able to access them as well.
Oh, whoa. Oh, so essentially what you're saying, like a woman can have like a digital passport of her records, yeah?
Absolutely.
Amazing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see if there are any more questions that have come in so far. But ladies, this has been very enlightening, and I really appreciate that.
Can I tell
now,
you about another service that we've just launched as well, please?
Please, by all means, please go ahead.
Lovely. One of them, the other service that has just been launched is our pelvic health service.
Okay.
And our pelvic health service is for anyone that is pregnant or up to a year after the birth of their baby. And it's for anyone that may have issues with healing in their pelvic area after birth, problems passing urine or opening their bowels, or problems with intimacy, or any problems that they know they have with their pelvic area that they want support with. And that service is run by a physiotherapist, a midwife, and if a consultant obstetrician or a gynecologist is needed, then they can be brought in to support.
So here's a question about that. I mean, when you say that someone who may have problem healing, you know, there's an assumption that there is a certain period of time that should be required for healing. How long is too long, in your opinion, or from what you experience, having dealt with a lot of mothers? It's
difficult to be specific on that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
You know, because there's lots of different, everybody's different and takes different
Fair
time
enough.
to heal.
Fair enough.
But what we would be concerned about is ongoing problems with, if a lady has ongoing problems with their pelvic area after their baby's born. Obviously, there's a period of time that their perineum or the area in their pelvis will be tender, and that's usually lasts for up to 2 weeks. And it's ongoing issues or concerns that they may have that we would be able to support them if they had any.
So in other words, even after they have given birth, they would still be coming in for checkups and support and assistance, yeah?
So the routine postnatal pathway is that they would, after they've had the baby, they go home, and then we see them for up to 10 days if there aren't any concerns, and we discharge them usually around 10 days post-birth to the health visitor, and the health visitor will see them at home. And then but having said that, there are the other services what I've just mentioned, like the pelvic health clinic, which is very new, and that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
It's only been launched in the last month or so, it's sort of it's not, the advertising hasn't gone out there yet, and it's sort of quite in its baby infancy of its of the service.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. So yeah, go ahead. You wanted something?
I think Jahida wants to talk about parent education classes.
Yeah, please, Jahida, do you want it?
So the parent education classes we have currently at London Northwest, we deliver them on a weekend basis. So by doing that, we can target a bigger population, because we know parents to be are tied up with work and things like that, and as if they haven't got enough appointments throughout the week, we try and target it for the weekend, where partners can also come and engage with the services. And it's usually a 3 to 4 hour session where we cover the antenatal part. We also cover labour and active birth, and we touch upon postnatal and infant feeding. So that's been running really successfully. What we are doing now, we are doing targeted antenatal classes. So we're delivering a service which again is in its in a very premature state of rolling out, but we are looking at targeting antenatal classes to the population that we serve. So we will be looking at hosting these classes in various languages, which includes in Hindi or Gujarati. It also includes Romanian and Pashto. So they're the three main areas that we want to target, and we're going to tackle them one by one. But that's a really good service that we're trying to provide that almost hits most of the population that we're serving at London Northwest. So I just wanted to put that out there.
No, it's amazing. I love that. Go ahead.
And if anybody is listening that's interested, then please, don't be shy. Speak to your midwife and inquire about these classes, and we'll point you in the right direction and make sure that you get all the support that you need and can benefit from in this pregnancy with us at London Northwest.
And these classes are physical classes, or do you have them digital as well, like online?
Absolutely. So we like the interaction, so the face-to-face. So we hold them at base. So we hold them at Northwick Park at present, usually on a Saturday, and sometimes due to demand, we also hold them on a Sunday. Now, if for whatever reason a patient cannot attend, but they still want to dial in, then we will provide them with a link where they can dial in online. But ultimately, we would like to hold this service on a face-to-face element.
Okay. Amanda, it's good to have you back again. I thought we lost you for a second.
I won't stop trying.
Yeah, resilience, persistence. That's what gets us through. Okay, Amanda. So, I guess the last question. I mean, I know you've touched on it a little bit, but it'd be nice to really like elaborate if you can. Yeah, is there any areas of your care that you would like to really just mention on, elaborate on that's I guess that made you just feel really, really comfortable? And you touched on the fact that there was frequent checkups, but is there anything else that you can talk about your care? Because you seem like you have enjoyed the service thoroughly, and judging from the smile on your face, and obviously I could tell that you've enjoyed that. So it'd be nice to share some of those experiences.
I think I would probably highlight and just say probably the birthing experience, because obviously there's the maternity journey, which is what I was highlighting, and the services that are available. Then there's the actual birth, which is probably like the grand, kind of finale or whatever of the whole journey. And for me, like I said, my goal was to have an elective C-section, and there was some complication in there in the sense that I had preeclampsia, and the date of that elective C-section had to be moved forward. What I absolutely loved and treasured was, like any mother, you have a birth plan, an idea of how you want your birth to go. Some people think that only applies to, active labor, but I think even for an elective C-section, there is room for that. And I think that's what a lot of ladies don't know.
Right.
So for me, with the elective C-section, there were things, I had a little 1-page, 2-pager thing I'd written up, and I'd printed several copies. I found that even in that situation where, in a way, the nature of my C-section had changed and the date had to be moved forward to a date I couldn't control, all of the, I guess, service providers like the surgeons, the midwives, the people involved in bringing that day about were still quite keen to accommodate my birth plan to the extent possible. So, even in a theater situation, I was able to say, like, I would like to have immediate skin-to-skin contact with my baby. So again, subject to certain things, like the pediatrician had to check the baby immediately. As soon as baby's health was confirmed, I had my baby on my chest. I really wanted to get, facilitate breastfeeding. And I said that I wanted to do exclusive breastfeeding. So again, the midwife who was in the theater knew that, had noted that, and immediately, as I was wheeled to recovery, put my baby on my chest and helped my baby latch. And again, that is something that was really important to me. My husband was in the theater with us, and we had a playlist. We had music. And I'm Zimbabwean, as is my husband. So we had Zimbabwean songs, like Shona songs on that playlist. And again, everybody was really respectful of that, really into it, and supported that. So we had our music on. The midwife, again, we had a little photo thing before. I literally walked into theater. I didn't have to be like wheeled in. I literally walked into the theater, and we were able to just have like really positive memories. And I think a lot of people associate a theater or a surgical situation with like high tension, a lack of control, and a lot of things happening to you. And actually, we were able to really take that experience and make it our own. And I really, really loved that. And I just think, again, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people I've shared that with are very surprised to be like, you had a C-section? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you elected to do that? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, you were able to say things like, I think the other thing that I really wanted was delayed cord clamping, to have my husband cut the cord and to kind of let the baby get all of the nutrients from me before they, disconnect us. And again, the surgeons were really attentive and listening to that, and they were able to balance it, because there is a balance, right? So I was like, I want to wait till the cord is completely white, i.e. like all of my blood is drained to the baby. And they're like, well, medically, you have to balance. You don't want the baby to get too cold, and the benefits kind of diminish as the time goes on. So what we can do is we'll keep it up to this time and then cut. So there was a conversation and agency, and I was able to advocate for what I want, and the medical people were able to advocate for just the safety of the whole situation while taking that into account. So I think that led to me having a positive birth experience, one, based on my informed choice from the listening service. And then I think two, even though there was now this kind of medical context underlying my C-section, there was still room for me to have agency and to feel empowered. And I really love to share that message, because I think a lot of women, when they've experienced cesarean sections, it's been disempowering. Where they feel like maybe the control of active labor has been taken away from them. And I think even for women who maybe have wanted to have active labor, but because of medical reasons are told it has to be a C-section, I think kind of making room for that conversation and making people aware that there is room to have that conversation gives the power back to the mother, which I think is really important for when you go into the fourth trimester, i.e. after the baby's arrived, because the worst thing for the baby is to have a mother who's kind of feeling like the whole experience has been taken away from her.
From everything that I've just been listening to you amazing ladies, and then I think your story kind of chronicles all the work that everybody else puts in. And the one way I can describe it is making sure that a woman can have the best experience giving birth, as in going through pregnancy and ultimately giving birth, and I think that is just wonderful.
Exactly.
I think
I also just add one thing? Sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
I'm scared my Wi-Fi will drop again.
Go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to highlight was, for me, the follow-up care. So there's follow-up care, I think, in the formal system, but I think maybe because I'd gone through the daily assessment unit or whatever, there's just all these touch points. Somebody like Kate and the people you interface with as you go along, obviously they are doing their job. You are doing your job as a mother, but I think there is something quite special in that process that came out for me, which is just the follow-up. I mean, that's why I'm even on this show. I kind of stayed in touch with Kate. She came to check in, and there were other midwives who kind of were like, oh, remembered me from the DAU, and were quite invested in, oh, how did it go with the baby? Good luck with the baby. And I think, again, that's important, because once you go home, there's a lot that's going on, right? You now have a baby to look after. It's quite overwhelming.
That's a full-time job on its own.
It's a full-time job on its own, and it's easy to feel alone. And some people have family, great. But I think it's also nice to have real connections with the NHS, because then you can kind of circle back when you need to. There's all these other services to support you afterwards. For me, it was like the breastfeeding, which didn't actually come naturally. So again, people who had known my story were quick to say, oh, actually, we can put you in touch with the breast lactation consultant, who kind of had nothing to do with the birthing experience, but that connection with, certain individuals, they were able to then signpost me to kind of the next point of the journey where I needed to go. So I do think kind of that was the other really positive thing from my experience of services I used, being, really establishing good connections, which then helped to signpost me to kind of where I need to go to. And I would like to think that even now, if I do have an issue, I feel comfortable enough to kind of reach out to the familiar faces and be signposted where I need to go.
I mean, with all the positive experience that you've had, you sound like you're going to be signing up for the MVP sometime soon, right? But it's really amazing. It's really amazing. And I just wanted to say something, because I've spoken to a lot of women, and usually it's always about, oh, I want to have the best experience when in my marriage, in my wedding day, right? But then there's also the actual the pregnancy period, which is an experience in itself. You know, if you're lucky enough to have it more than once, then, you know, you'd never want to have a bad experience there, because, you know, it can be, I mean, 10 months of a bad experience can be very traumatic, you know. So I just see the whole picture, and it's very overwhelming, and I would say I applaud you ladies. I mean, you know, I'm humbled to have the opportunity to speak to you all today about this. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, Amanda. I want to thank you all. Kate Rue, thank you so much, development consultant and midwife. Chahida, thank you so much. Chahida is a community and outpatient matron. And Heather, our co-chair for MVP, thank you so much. Ladies, any last words before we wrap up the show? We have less than 2 minutes left.
Do you want that phone number again?
Let me just read it out, and you can let me know if it's correct. Okay, so it's 0208 8692 890. Is that it?
That's right. And then I don't know if you want some of our, we've also got referrals, emails.
By all means, read them out.
They're pretty long, but
we'll take as many as we can.
This is for the classes and for the birth after cesarean.
Right.
So it's LNWH -TR dot antenatal bookings, and that is spelt ANTENATALBOOKINGS at nhs.net. So people can email in and refer themselves to anything such as like antenatal classes or even the listening service into that, and appointments can be made.
Right, and I'll just add, if anyone has any questions after this session that we didn't cover, then by all means join those Friday sessions with Kate and someone.
And there's a QR code for that session on the back. If you are having a baby, in the back of your notes, inside cover, there's a QR code, isn't there, Heather? And they can just use their phone and look at that, and then join the.
And the links are also on our Instagram pages, and there's a direct link on the Trust's website as well, so you can find it in lots of places.
Heather, what is your Instagram page? Just give me that real quick.
At Northwick Park MVP. So yeah, it'll be great if people can give us a follow, because we put all of our events and stuff on there. So even if you just want to follow on there and just leave a comment every once in a while if we ask for experiences, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, thank you so much for your time. You guys have been amazing. And Amanda, to you, congratulations once again on the new baby. Wish you all the best. And I hope that I get to speak with you all sometime soon enough.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Have a good one now. Yeah. This has been another edition of Brent Health Matters. And the show essentially, like I said, talks about all health issues, and we bring this to you every last Wednesday of the month. So make sure you tune in for the next one, which will be happening in the new month. This is me signing off. Do stick around. We have the news coming up next.